Letter 373 by Charles Lamb. Undated, May 1825. With regard to a John Dory, which you desire to be particularly informed about, I honor the fish, but it is rather on account of Quin, who patronized it, and whose taste, of a dead man, I had as leave go by as anybody's Apicius and Heliogabalus excepted. This latter started nightingales' tongues and peacocks' brains as a garnish. Else in itself, and trusting to my own poor single judgment, it hath not that moist mellow oleaginous gliding smooth descent from the tongue to the palate, thence to the stomach, and see, that your Brighton turbot hath, which I take to be the most friendly and familiar flavour of any that swims, most genial and at home to the palate. Nor has it on the other hand that fine falling off flakiness, that oleaginous peeling off, as it were, like a sea onion, which endears your cod's head and shoulders to some appetites, that manly firmness, combined with a sort of womanish coming in pieces, which the same cod's head and shoulders hath, where the whole is easily separable, pliant to a knife or a spoon, but each individual flake presents a pleasing resistance to the opposed tooth. You understand me, these delicate subjects are necessarily obscure. But it has a third flavour of its own, perfectly distinct from cod or turbot, which it must be owned may to some not injudicious palates render it acceptable, but to my unpractised tooth it presented rather a crude river fish flavour, like your pike or carp, and perhaps like them should have been tamed and corrected by some laborious and well-chosen sauce. Still, I always suspect a fish which requires so much of artificial settings off. Your choicest relishes, like nature's loveliness, need not the foreign aid of ornament, but are when unadorned, that is, with nothing but a little plain anchovy and a squeeze of lemon, then adorn the most. However, I shall go to Brighton again next summer, and shall have an opportunity of correcting my judgment, if it is not sufficiently informed. I can only say that when nature was pleased to make the John Dory so notoriously deficient in outward graces, as to be sure he is the very rhinoceros of fishes, the ugliest dog that swims, except perhaps the sea satyr, which I never saw, but which they say is terrible, when she formed him with so few external advantages, she might have bestowed a more elaborate finish in his parts internal, and have given him a relish, a sapper, to recommend him, as she made Pope a poet to make up for making him crooked. I am sorry to find that you have got a knack of saying things which are not true to show your wit. If I had no wit, but what I must show at the expense of my virtue or my modesty, I had as lieve be as stupid as at the tea warehouse. Depend upon it, my dear Chambers, that an ounce of integrity at our deathbed will stand us in more avail than all the wit of Congreve, or, for instance, you tell me a fine story about Truss and his playing at Leamington, which I know to be false, because I have advice from Derby that he was whipped through the town on that very day you say he appeared in some character or other, for robbing an old woman at church of a seal ring. And Dr. Parr has been 2 months dead, so it won't do to scatter these untrue stories about among people that know anything. Besides, your forte is not invention. It is judgment, particularly shown in your choice of dishes. We seem in that instance born under one star. I like you for liking hare. I esteem you for disrelishing minced veal. Liking is too cold a word. I love you for your noble attachment to the fat unctuous juices of deer's flesh and the green unspeakable of turtle. I honor you for your endeavors to esteem and approve of my favorite, which I ventured to recommend to you as a substitute for hare, bullock's heart, and I am not offended that you cannot taste it with my palate. A true son of Epicurus should reserve one taste peculiar to himself. For a long time I kept the secret about the exceeding deliciousness of the marrow of boiled knuckle of veal, till my tongue weakly ran riot in its praises, and now it is prostitute and common. But I have made one discovery which I will not impart till my dying scene is over. Perhaps it will be my last mouthful in this world. Delicious thought, enough to sweeten, or rather make savory, the hour of death. It is a little square bit about this size in or near the knuckle bone of a fried joint of fat. I can't call it nor lean. Neither altogether. It is that beautiful compound which nature must have made in Paradise Park venison before she separated the two substances, the dry and the oleaginous, to punish sinful mankind. Adam ate them entire and in separate, and this little taste of Eden in the knuckle bone. Fried seems the only relic of a paradisaical state. When I die, an exact description of its topography shall be left in a cupboard with a key, inscribed on which these words, "See Lamb dying," imparts this to C. Chambers as the only worthy depository of such a secret. You'll drop a tear. Charles Chambers was the brother of John Chambers, see above. He had been at Christ's Hospital with Lamb and subsequently became a surgeon in the Navy. He retired to Leamington and practiced there until his death, somewhen about 1857, says Mr. Hazlitt. He seems to have inherited some of the epicure's tastes of his father, the sensible clergyman in Warwickshire, who, Lamb tells us in Thoughts on Presence of Game, used to allow a pound of Epping to every hare. This letter adds one more to the list of Lamb's gustatory raptures, and it is remarkable as being his only eulogy of fish. Mr. Hazlitt says that the date September 1, 1817 has been added by another hand, but if the remark about Dr. Parr is true, he died March 6, 1825, the time is as I have stated. Fortunately, the date in this particular case is unimportant. Mr. Hazlitt suggests that the stupid person in the tea warehouse was by whom we met recently. Of Truss we know nothing. The name may be a misreading of Twiss, Horace Twiss, 1787–1849, politician, buffoon, and Mrs. Siddons's nephew, who was quite a likely person to be lied about in joke at that time. Here should come a note to Alsop dated May 29, 1825, changing an appointment. I am as mad as the devil, given in the Boston Bibliophile edition.